Welcome to Fire Up Connect radio show. I'll be your host today. My name is James Watson, and I am a fractional vice president of sales. And I am a proud member of Fire Up Connect networking group. And today we will be discussing multiple of ways that you can enhance your business performance. We've got a couple great guests that we have on the show today. One of them is Terry Lee Anderson, and she is a business performance advisor that'll be talking about how companies can minimize their risk and optimize their talent. The other is Ryan Howard, and he is an expense reduction and optimization expert. And as I mentioned, I'm a fractional VP of sales that works with small business owners to help scale their sales and their profitability. And, this is one of the big challenges that, small companies are facing out there, whether they're startups or whether they're, along the way and they've kind of run into a brick wall because they don't have all the infrastructure in place. And so one of the questions that, a lot of people ask themselves is, why are the sales revenues not, increasing, as they thought that they would be? And there are multiple reasons that this could happen. Some of it has to do with the staffing of their sales team. Some of it has to do with the fact that they don't have a clearly defined sales process. And then oftentimes they don't have a business plan. They haven't really put together, a plan that's a year long, 2 years long, 5 years, thought about their goals and kind of worked their way back to what is it actually going to take, to get to that next level. And some of the things that I listen for when I'm talking to companies and what I've experienced over the years, whether it's in corporate America or whether it's with, smaller startups or everything in between, is, our company is lacking sales structure. That's a very common thing that you're here. Too much of our annual revenues are coming from a couple of different clients. And sometimes people say, our sales are good, but they could be even better. What can we do to change that? So one of the things that you can do when you're scaling your processes and, trying to get better results is to, number one, assess who are your current personnel. Particularly on the sales side. You've got to look at not only who they are, but you got to look at what, processes are in place. And then you have to, build and implement processes that are going to work with them. And possibly you need to bring some new people in. And then you got to implement, all of those different processes. In determining, what your current processes are, you've always got to determine what kind of manpower you need to achieve your objectives. And some people are kind of delusional about that, some business leaders, because they'll say, well, we're going to, hit 1 million in ARR over the next year. But the reality is, okay, how are you going to get there? Do you know what, metrics it's going to take in order to achieve that? What is your sales cycle like? Is it a very transactional business? Do you need to do a lot of deals, or is it a slow burn process where they're big deals, but it's going to take months to get them? And you have to be able to realize that in order to determine what your manpower is, or determine what the quotas are, how many people you need, what is the correct compensation. You've got to bring the right caliber of people in. And on that note, what you really have to do is you've got to hire right. You've got to recruit people. You've got to screen them, have a screening process in place, an interview process in place to really flesh out, are they the right, people? Do they fit into the culture? Do they have the experience? Can they think on their feet? Once you have that in place, you can develop those people, but you've got to create a sales playbook, and then you've got to, onboard them properly and make sure that they know what they're doing before they get out and have important business on the line. And so there's some things around mentoring that are very important there also, so that they, learn from people that have already been there and done that. So when we're talking about sales revenue, and profitability objectives, you have to come in and create a statement of work that's agreed upon, and everyone has to be held accountable to it, from the executives on down to the salespeople. You have to have sales, weekly sales meetings. You've got to have that sales playbook. You've got to collaborate on a regular basis. You've got to do one-on-ones, and there's got to be hands-on coaching. When you're actually trying to figure out who to hire, you need to figure out a job description and have the right compensation for that role. When, in my experience, when, I was in corporate America and also with smaller companies, is we called it like a top grading interview process, where we would screen a lot of candidates and then come down to a final three. And then we would do, I would do, the initial interviews, and then I would have some other people come in and do interviews and weigh in. And then we'd get down to those final candidates and make them do what we call a presentation interview, where they would have to take something that they've sold before, and we would give them a scenario, and they would have to kind of run it from A to Z to show that they can actually interact and maybe overcome some objections and take the process from A to Z. Once you get the right people on board, you don't just throw them out into the field. They've got to have, a certification process. They've got to have, be doing role playing. They've got to shadow people that if there are other reps, if not, if it's just the sales lead, if it's just the founder of the company, then they're the sales leader, then they have to, be the one to kind of bring that person along. When you're building up a sales playbook, first you have to have the right people in place. Which means you had to have hired right, or you had to develop the people that you already have there. Then you've got to assess your current situation. What are, your revenue and your profit objectives, and how, frankly, how are you going to get there? When you're putting together the job description and hiring those people in, you want to align it with, your value prop and the culture of the company. So these are things that actually, it's good to have workshops to get those in place, and, create an interviewing forum and, ask the right questions so that, by the time you're done, you've really got the right candidate. So, I've got a little case study that was based off of personal experience that I had. And there was a tech startup, about a year ago that I was doing a consulting gig for, and they were going for their, second round of funding, and they were doing well. They're doing about 12 million in ARR, but they were supposed to be at around 20 million. And so the VC said, well, we've got to bring someone in to help out. And so they brought me in as a fractional VP of sales. During that time, I worked with an outside consultant, and we built a sales playbook. We created an onboarding process. There were 9 reps already in place. We hired 9 more reps. From that, we built this, sales playbook that really became the foundation for the repeatable, predictable processes that, are now in place with that company. As a result of that, they already had about $60 million in funding. They now have grown to over about 200 million in funding. They went from being in 1 state to now in 5 states, and they're doing extremely well. So, kind of in summary, it's critical to be aware of the fact that you need to scale your sales, pretty early on. And if you've already gone too far without having done it, then, you need to address it and get something into place. You got to make sure you got the right people in place. And then you've got to make sure you got a plan. You've got to have a playbook. I have over 30 years of experience, helping, companies overcome adversity and helping individuals, to realize their dreams. And I have taken small companies, to their initial rounds and second rounds of funding. And I've taken a mid-sized company from 100 million to over 2 billion in ARR with the processes that I put in place. What really makes me unique and separates me from, what others out there do is that you get a hands-on builder that, comes in and does the weekly meetings, is involved with in the executive meetings, does one-on-ones, helps to put together the playbook. So it goes beyond just being a coach. It's actually coming in and doing the work. And so, if anyone is interested in going to the next level and learning more about what they can do to get their sales processes and their profitability up, I'm happy to set up a complimentary assessment. This can be done, via email initially. And my contact information is jwatson at salesxceleration.com. So that's jwatson at salesacceleration.com. There's no E before the X. My mobile number is 310-488-1864. My company name is Sales Catapult, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. So I will look forward to hopefully connecting with you. Okay, we're going to go to commercial break. And when we come back, we will have our first guest, Terry Lynn Anderson. She is a business performance advisor with Insperity, and she will be talking about how companies can minimize their risk and optimize their talent. So don't go away.